One position that might not see any volume, but I just want to at least touch upon so we don't leave any stones unturned here, is the tight end. And we've got all these receivers added, but they do have some interesting athletes here with Ricky Seals-Jones and Charles Clay they picked up. And I think they drafted, I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, but they also drafted a tight end.
Caleb Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who is that? Yeah.
Yeah, the guy from UCLA, good player.
Pretty good player, yeah. So, I mean, we've got some athletes there, right? Do you see a role being carved out for the tight end? Is he just going to go – what do you kind of envision the formations and stuff? And is there a place for a tight end in there, I guess, what I'm getting at?
Yeah, no, that was interesting. It was, like I mentioned earlier, the last few years of Kliff being at Tech, they were using the tight end a lot more. And if it was just recruiting, because it's – at least in our world in college football, it's tough to find a true dominant tight end because there's just not very many of them anymore. The few coming out every year. So if you're going to play with one, it's tough to find them. But obviously there's, those guys are easy to find, in the NFL. But I think the last few years he started to use the tight end more. He started to use formations, motions, using the tight end in the run game and the screen game and the pass game. And I think he's kind of walked into a pretty good situation where I think Ricky Seals-Jones being a former receiver, he's obviously really athletic, really big. Charles Clay obviously has done a lot of different stuff. He played at Tulsa and did a bunch of stuff in the run game, run blocking stuff, RPO type stuff that's going to kind of, translate to what Kliff wants to do in terms of using that guy. So, and then, like I said, they drafted Caleb Wilson, who's a volume shooter. I always like to call him volume shooter because he caught a bunch of balls and really worked the middle of the field from hash to hash and was a really good player in some of those UCLA offenses. So there's definitely if they can carve themselves a niche in the offense, there's some space for them and there will be some balls for them. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he uses them. But like I said, Kliff will find ways to get those guys the ball if they can be productive.